En Panamá, Jean era un niño muy popular, porque siempre era bien alegre y juguetón. Mírala aquí, qué lindo. Su primer año en New York en la escuela.
Narina Jimenez brought her family to the U.S. from Panama in 2001. Her son, Jean, was just 10 years old.
Cuando nos mudamos a los Estados Unidos, el sueño era que ellos crecieran con muchas oportunidades. Teníamos el sueño de que estamos en un lugar maravilloso, ¿verdad? Una nación maravillosa, con leyes que se cumplen, con procesos que se siguen. Nunca nosotros pensamos que eso podía terminar en un día fatal.
High five. Yeah. I have a 2-year-old son, and I named him after my brother. And every time he smiles, I see my brother. I see Jean.
What was your age difference with Jean?
Just 1.5 years in between.
You know, some people call that like twins.
It's funny you say that because I've always felt like that's what we were. We were just so much alike. Jean picked up English a lot faster than me. He just assimilated in such a way that he was very much American.
Jean received his DACA status when he was 22. Around the same time, while Karina and Jean were living in Kansas City, she started to notice that something was off with her brother. At what point did you start to notice that your brother was experiencing issues with mental health?
He started to become delusional about his identity. He would say outrageous things like, I'm Barack Obama and I'm Superman. It got so bad that he was getting in trouble with the law, and it was a direct byproduct of his illness.
Jean wasn't being adequately treated for his schizophrenia, bipolar, and acute depression. By 2017, he had racked up multiple misdemeanors.
Lo arrestan y sí me dijo, Mom, the game is over. ICE took me.
Local authorities transferred Jean to ICE custody. Even though his DACA status had been renewed, ICE says his visa either expired or was revoked, but wouldn't comment further. Jean's lawyer disagrees. His first night at Stewart Detention Center, during medical intake, Jean told a nurse he had attempted suicide in the past and was concerned he might again. Jean is one of 8 detainees who died of various causes while in custody at Stewart since 2017. His death highlights a series of systemic failures. In our months-long investigation, Vice News gained access to taped depositions of high-level ICE officials as part of a lawsuit brought by Jean's family. James Blankenship, the ICE Health Services Administrator at the time, gave sworn testimony that for more than a year, he repeatedly requested additional staffing to support detainees like Jean, and admits he knew the shortages could be life-threatening.
You couldn't get the resources from ICE to adequately staff the behavioral health team.
Correct.
Despite asking for them.
Yes, sir.
Despite telling them that people could die if you didn't have adequate staffing.
Yes, sir.
And then a person died.
Yes, sir.
Janet Napolitano served as Homeland Security Secretary from 2009 to 2013. Does it surprise you that those conversations were had before this detainee died and nothing was done?
It troubles me, and it should trouble all of us. When we take detention of somebody, we become responsible for them, and we become responsible for their safety.
Without enough psychiatrists, Jean wasn't being adequately treated for his severe psychosis, and he made that clear in writing to a federal helpline and to a nurse.
I went over there, I was like, are you okay? And he's just like, these fucking voices, they won't leave me alone. I was like, said, are they telling you to harm yourself or anybody? He's like, well, yeah, they're telling me to commit suicide because the people here are simple, but I don't want to harm myself. Then he mentioned something about having his medication increased. And how you been trying to get them to increase his medication.
Despite repeatedly requesting a higher dosage of Risperdal, an antipsychotic, Jean was not seen by a psychiatrist over the course of a month and a half, and therefore didn't get his increased medication.
His prescribed psychotropic regimen was not at a therapeutic level. Do you have any reason to dispute that?
No, sir. If it's a mortality review, I don't have any reason whatsoever to dispute that.
And SDC did not have adequate psychiatry resources to appropriately manage him, Mr. Jimenez.
Correct, sir. We did not have staffing at the level we were supposed to have.
After an altercation with another detainee, Jean was put in solitary confinement for 6 days.
Do you recall in your training a known risk for people who are suicidal and schizophrenic is putting them in a room by themselves?
Putting anybody in a room by themselves for prolonged periods of time, it increases risk of that.
Have you ever heard the phrase, it's like putting an asthmatic in a smoke-filled room?
No, sir, I haven't heard that phrase before.
One of the ICE trainers actually says that in some of the trainings.
Oh, okay. That's a good analogy.
How did being in solitary confinement affect Jean's mental health?
You have your brain assaulting you 23 hours a day. You're sitting alone. To any normal individual, that would even be too much.
A week later, Jean tried to kill himself by jumping from the top tier of his unit. According to this deposition, he was sent to mental health, solitary confinement, and a disciplinary hearing. John Bretz, the ICE officer in charge of Stewart Detention Center at the time, was deposed as part of this lawsuit.
Officer Bretz, it appears that in the middle of his detention sentencing hearing, Mr. Jimenez informed the person that you sent and everybody else that he had attempted to kill himself. Is that the way it appears to you?
I really can't judge one way or the other what Mr. Jimenez meant by this. Occasionally people that have, say things that are interpreted as suicidal ideation. I'm not a mental health expert, so I can't really say one way or the other.
He jumped from a second tier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just words, right?
Objection.
He was being punished for jumping from the second tier of his housing unit, correct?
Objection.
Mr. Bretz, do you have an answer to my question?
No, I don't know why he was placed in segregation for this particular issue.
After 13 days in segregation, a confinement review committee evaluated Jean's case and decided to keep him in solitary for the remainder of his sentence.
So it appears that he was placed there basically for his own protection.
It's your testimony today that Mr. Jimenez was put into this cell for his protection, right?
If that's a cell in segregation, I assume that's where he was placed.
After jumping off the top tier to try and harm himself.
I believe that appears to be the situation.
Then why did the institutional disciplinary panel find him guilty?
Objection calls for speculation. I think I already answered this question.
No answer from either of you. There is no good answer to it, so you can be forgiven.
A question I have is why he wasn't given an alternative to detention. Put on an ankle bracelet, be required to check in weekly.
You would think that they would remove this person from immigration detention into an actual medical facility where they can be treated.
After Jean spent 18 days in segregation, emails between ICE officials confirmed that Jean's mom pleaded to get an immigration advocate to visit him, but that the detention center turned them away.
Y yo le dije, pásame a alguien ahí, necesito hablar con alguien. Y dice, ellos no van a hablar contigo, nunca van a hablar contigo. Tú lo intentas una y otra vez y ellos nunca van a hablar contigo. Ellos no van a hacer nada por mí.
The next day, on his 19th consecutive day in solitary, Jean died by suicide.
Mi corazón empezó a palpitar muy fuerte, que fuera un sueño. Es verdad. Y era verdad. ¿Quién se quitó la vida? Alguien que amaba tanto la vida.
How did you learn that your brother had died?
I got a phone call from the embassy, and they said, I don't know how to say this, but your brother died in detention today. And I just collapsed.
The The night Jean died, his unit guard left his post 6 times, did not conduct security rounds, and falsified documents in violation of facility rules, according to ICE's review of Jean's death, first obtained by CBS News. Who do you blame for your brother's death?
I blame ICE.
Under President Obama, Secretary Napolitano limited the use of solitary for mentally ill detainees, but the Trump administration reversed that directive. From 2016 to 2018, when Jean was detained, 40% of detainees in solitary confinement were mentally ill.
It seems that if that's the right number, they're using solitary as a substitute for actually providing mental health care. But it's easily available. You put somebody in a little cell and problem solved. Well, no, problem's not solved. I think that when the government is exercising its authority to hold somebody in custody, that is a fundamental responsibility of the government.
So why isn't ICE doing more?
I don't know. And I would think that under Secretary Mayorkas, they will do more. At least according to his public statements and some of the actions he's already taken.
We investigated Irwin County Detention Center, the origin of allegations around unneeded gynecologic surgeries of female detainees there. President Biden recently announced that they're ending the contract with Irwin County Detention Center. I wonder if you think Stewart Detention Center is next.
It would seem that that would be appropriate. When you tell me that there have been 8 deaths there, that seems extraordinary.
Current DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas shut down 2 ICE facilities in his first several months in office due to substandard conditions.
We are looking at detention facilities across the country. Stewart is one of them, and it is our responsibility to ensure that people who are in our custody and care are treated humanely, and the conditions in which they are held are humane and meet certain standards. And if they don't, we will take prompt action.
We reached out to ICE, John Bretz, and James Blankenship. All of them declined to comment.
Just remorseless.
Actually, sir, I'm a Christian, and I don't appreciate you saying I have no remorse.
Do you?
As a matter of fact, I treat people a lot better than you do. I'll just say that.
Do you have remorse, sir?
Absolutely.
About what?
I have remorse when anybody passes away in custody, or anybody dies, period.
You know who else was a Christian? Is Jean.
Yo quiero que el mundo recuerde a Jane como ese ser carismático, alegre, soñador, ese chico guapo y con feeling, ese muchacho valiente que era un joven de Dios, que le pertenecía a Dios y que tenía una fe muy fuerte. Así quiero que lo recuerden, así yo quiero recordarlo.